Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Nelson Jimenez, and today we are going to be doing two segments this time. Soon I'll be working on delivering four, but for now we're doing a segment on the anticipated matchups from last night's games. And after a short break, we're going to go into our second segment talking about NBA trade rumors that are circulating around the league. Now, I ask that you remember to please follow and subscribe to the show. And if you want to become a member or part of the show, there's a link in the description below. And as always, please remember to tip and to donate to get your comments recognized. Make sure you go follow the link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. It really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. The link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. As always, the link will be displayed underneath the ticker. And let's get into the first segment of the podcast, which will be Joel Embiid going against Jokic in the highly anticipated matchup against the 76ers and the Denver Nuggets. Now, the 76ers played at home against the Denver Nuggets last night, and Joel Embiid matched up for Jokic, against Jokic once again in the regular season, for the third straight time in the third straight year, and once again Joel Embiid got the last laugh against Jokic. Now, for the last 3 years in a row, Joel Embiid has outscored Nikola Jokic by double digits, and today he scored 41. Yesterday he scored 41 compared to Nikola Jokic's 25 points. And this win makes Joel Embiid 2-1 in the last 3 years against Nikola Jokic in the regular season. Now, he was also able to get 10 assists compared to Nikola Jokic's 3 last night. Now, the question after these games every single time is Joel Embiid better than Nikola Jokic? It's always difficult to tell, but that's always the question that pops up every single time Joel Embiid has these matchups against Nikola Jokic. Because, as I mentioned, for the last 3 years, Joel Embiid won 2 of the 3 matchups against Nikola Jokic, and every single time he's outscored him. And now, obviously, Jokic has had a better career as opposed to Joel Embiid, since Nikola Jokic is a 2-time MVP and an NBA Finals MVP, whereas Joel Embiid has only 1 MVP on his resume and has a reputation of being unable to make it past the second round. We have somebody in the chat, Crucial PG. He's got a question wondering about this mock trade scenario. Wow, okay. Joel Embiid could go to the Lakers for Christian Wood, D'Angelo Russell, Cam Reddish, and a first-round pick. Me personally, I do not think the 76ers will trade away their best player, and I do not think for such little value. If they are going to make a trade, then they would have to include a couple more firsts. I don't think the Sixers would ever consider this trade because not only that, they don't get a center in return. If they got Anthony Davis, then maybe, but later on in the second segment, I'll go on and talk about certain other trade scenarios that might be more likely to happen and other trade scenarios that I personally do not think would happen, but obviously they're just rumors. Crucial PG also responded back in the chat. He thought it wasn't a good trade either. He thought it was silly. His friend Connor thought that would be a nice trade. Yeah, well, you might need to tell your friend Connor to reconsider your trade ideas, because that's a really low value. It's not a good trade in my opinion. Now, back to the conversation of having Embiid ranked over Jokic, considering the last matchup. Me personally, as I said before, I don't think Joel Embiid has had a better career than Jokic, but every single time that they match up against each other, it seems like Joel Embiid always gets the better of him. Now, this is obviously the biggest reason why a lot of people put Jokic over Joel Embiid. Crucial PG mentions that he's a biased Lakers fan. Yeah, it would seem that way. But Joel Embiid, once again, has never made it past the second round. In fact, there are many times where he misses these games due to injury. His style of flopping and baiting for these calls from the refs don't necessarily work all the time in the postseason. As of right now, where the standings are, the 76ers are 2 wins behind the Bucks, and in a very top-heavy Eastern Conference. The 2 teams to beat right now are the Bucks and the Celtics. I personally don't think that any other team has a chance of beating them, and the only teams that would make the finals would be between those 2, who would win in that matchup. But that's my personal opinion. The Nuggets played more games than anyone currently in the Western Conference. That's in the playoffs. They are a top 6 team. Oh, well, the teams that are in the playoffs are top 6, by the way, because of the NBA play-in. And they are currently tied for the most wins in the Western Conference, even though they've played the most games. So the Western Conference, there's a lot of teams that, it's open for everyone, from the 1 seed all the way down to arguably the 8th seed or the 9th seed. It's up for grabs. But for the Eastern Conference, it's a little bit easier for Joel Embiid to make it past the first round because of how top-heavy it is. Since the Sixers hold the 3rd seed, they wouldn't have to go up against the Boston Celtics or the Bucks in the first round, but rather in the second round. So, depending on how the standings go, the Heat could be a potential team that goes against the 76ers. But with the standings and how they are right now, the Sixers are looking to be matched up against the Indiana Pacers. I personally think that the Pacers do not have a center that's competent enough to guard Embiid, and I think Tyrese Halliburton would find it a little bit difficult to score on Tyrese Maxey, or at least outscore Tyrese Maxey. He's a decent defender, and he also provides enough offensively to be able to score as many points as Halliburton. So I feel like that's a matchup going into the playoffs they would be happy with. However, once they move on into assuming the seedings do change, they could meet the Knicks in the first round, and the Knicks, again, are another team that don't necessarily have the matchups needed in order to stop Joel Embiid. I don't think Julius Randle's scoring would be able to slow Joel Embiid down, and I don't think any defender, unless they get Mitchell Robinson back and giving him more minutes, I don't see a scenario where the Knicks could make the series competitive. So the real question is if Joel Embiid can make it past the first round, make it to the second round and make it past the second round and meet up against the Boston Celtics or the Bucks, depending on if the seedings change, in the conference finals. And depending on where that goes from there will depend on and depending on where Jokic ends up in the playoffs as well, that will definitely determine the rankings and which of them is definitely better, because Giannis Antetokounmpo has already proven himself as a championship. Crucial PG in the chat said Joel Embiid is going to have his yearly meltdown against the Celtics. Well, if they do go up against the Celtics, yeah, that's probably what happens. The Boston Celtics, notoriously, they've owned him for the previous years. And not only that, but the Bucks, they also have a really good matchup with Giannis Antetokounmpo. If they do match up against the Bucks, Giannis is a really elite defender, and he could also prove competent enough to be able to hold Joel Embiid down and be able to guard him, and maybe he'll be able to answer and have more points than Joel Embiid on the other side of the floor. But we're running a little low on time, so I will be right back after a short break. So once again, I'll be right back. And we are back talking about the second segment of the podcast, which is trade rumors. But before I get on to this segment, as always, please remember to tip and donate to get your comments recognized. Make sure you go to the following link, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Helps make the show a lot more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Once again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And let's begin with actually, before we begin with the second segment, I'd like to respond to Crucial PG a little bit more. Since I was busy responding to his comments, I was actually going to comment about his favorite team, which I believe was the Clippers, and how they won in their matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder while playing in back-to-back games, no less. Now, Clippers are they're having a really great season. They're doing well in the regular season, as well as the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, assuming that the standings were to stay as where they are, they could end up seeing Nikola Jokic in the first round. And the Oklahoma City Thunder could see Jokic in the first round. And in the second round, actually, no, in the second round they'd be able to see him. That's my bad. And that might be a problem for Jokic, because Jokic might be going up against a shot-blocking center. And I actually have the Clippers as a dark horse candidate to maybe make it all the way. And Zubac has been having great games against a bunch of great centers. And Nikola Jokic is he's known for his insane efficiency in a lot of these games, where he tends to miss only like one or two shots. In the game against Zubac, Jokic missed a total of 23 shots. And this is, if you're a Clippers fan, this is a huge W, because the Clippers need that matchup going further, and they need to make sure that all of their players can play and compete at such a high level. Crucial PG says that the Clippers are going all the way. Again, they are my dark horse, so it's possible that they definitely could go all the way. But let's move on to the second segment of the show, which will be discussing about the trade rumors. In other news, however, the Kings recently, they were up 22 points with a 99.9% chance of winning the game. But the Suns were able to pull off a huge comeback thanks to Kevin Durant's defense and his 15 fourth quarter points. Sabonis dropped a triple-double. De'Aaron Fox dropped 33 points, but it wasn't enough to hold off the Suns in scoring. And Grayson Allen made a huge appearance on the offensive side of the ball, scoring 29 points along with 9 3-pointers. Crucial PG in the chat again saying Plum Dog will keep up for what Zubac does. So I guess he has some strong faith in Mason Plumlee being a competent defender, picking up the slack for when Zubac doesn't appear for some of the games. Depending on how, obviously that's definitely a that could definitely happen. I don't have high faiths in Plumlee, but then again, like, who knows what they could do in the playoffs? Like, it's up or down for them, and the sky's the limit at this point. Now, back to the trade rumors. One of the most popular names on the trade market right now is DeJounte Murray. His name has been brought up several times, and he was recently traded from San Antonio to the Atlanta Hawks, which has been the place that he's played for the recent years. Since they've got him, the Hawks have been a notoriously mid-team. They're a team that hasn't what it takes to make the playoffs, but they don't necessarily have what it takes to make a deep playoff run. They did it once with Trae Young in his second year, but ever since that, they've come up short recently in a lot of the playoffs. With DeJounte Murray, they made the playoffs, but they lost to the Boston Celtics in 6 games. Now, DeJounte Murray averaged 23 points per game with 7 assists and 7 rebounds, shooting a little inefficient with 44% from the field and 37% from 3. Crucial PG mentioned in the chat that Zubac was hurt for 4 weeks. Yes, but you also have to mention the work that the bench also has to provide for the Clippers. Like, you don't expect Zubac to play every single minute of the Clippers game in the playoffs, do you? So like when he's sitting down, you need Mason Plumlee to come in and guard a lot of the top tier centers, and depending on who they go up against, it could be either a bad matchup for Plumlee, or it could be a pretty good matchup. Like right now, the Clippers look to be set to play the Dallas Mavericks. That looks like it would be a great matchup in your favor because you have 2 perimeter defenders that could guard Luka and Kyrie Irving, and you don't have to worry about the center position that much. But it would hurt you later on if you have to go up against once again, you did beat Chet, and you didn't even have to play Zubac that last game, so that's good news for you. But at the same time, playing Chet in a 7-game series, it might be, depending on how well it goes, depending on how well his playoff debut is and how he handles the pressure, because it's still questionable. Crucial PG responded, "We got Plum Dog and Poe Theisty." Crucial PG, you do have a sense of humor, I will give you that, but I am going a little bit off topic, so I'm going to go back to the trade rumors. Trae Young in the series, I did mention the Atlanta Hawks going against the Boston Celtics. He averaged 30 points per game on 10 assists on nearly 40% shooting from the field and 33% shooting from 3. He's also been involved in some trade rumors, as some sources say that a lot of people around Trae Young's inner circle wouldn't mind him being traded over to the San Antonio Spurs, which would be good for Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama has a lot of eyes on him since he's the number 1 pick in the draft and he's 7'4". He gets easy lanes for a dunk, but most of his teammates don't notice that, or they don't necessarily pass him the ball, which seems to be the most common problem. So pairing him up with a point guard that really likes to pass would definitely help Victor. Not only that, but DeJounte has also been in trade rumors surrounding the Lakers, which I said before, I don't think the Lakers are in a good market to make a trade value. Like I said that before, I didn't think they would make a good value for Joel Embiid. I don't think they'll make a good value for DeJounte Murray, simply because DeJounte Murray plays defense. They don't necessarily have, other than Austin Reeves, which I don't see them trading, they don't have a good guard that they could essentially trade that has the defense. Since Atlanta is still technically like a mid-tier team, they could make it to the playoffs if they try, but if this trade goes through, then the possibility of that happening is like, it's not 100%. The Miami Heat have been seen as a team that is suitable for DeJounte Murray, but in a trade scenario for the Lakers, Zach LaVine has been in a lot of trade talks. Now, I personally don't think the Bulls want to trade him. Don't get me wrong. The Bulls want to trade Zach LaVine, but I'm not sure if the Lakers, like, that is definitely like a much better fit for the Los Angeles Lakers and the situation that they're in. I'm not entirely sure the Bulls would pull the trigger on them because I believe they could get a lot more value from Zach LaVine. Crucial PG, yeah, see, like he agrees with me. He says, yeah, that's his bad. Yeah, see, like those trade talks are just terrible. Like, not only that, Draymond Green has also been involved in a lot of these trade rumors with Pascal Siakam, and obviously with Draymond Green's reputation and his antics both on and off the field, it's a little bit difficult to gauge like Golden State Warriors and their opinion on Draymond Green, whether or not he's fit for the team to help them win championships. I personally think that both sides shouldn't trade either of those players. Pascal Siakam brings great value to the team, along with Scotty Barnes, as well as Draymond Green bringing the value that he needs to Golden State. I personally think that I don't think Golden State is going to be able to make it anywhere with the roster that they have, but I don't think it's fair to trade away Draymond Green simply because of what he's brought to the organization and what he's been able to do. So and with that, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Nelson Jimenez. Once again, don't forget to tip and donate to the link in the description. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. I'm your host, Nelson. And wait a minute, before I end the show, we have one more comment coming in from Crucial PG. He asks, did I see the trade that most likely will happen with Siakam? They're still talking terms, but what we know so far is Siakam for Indiana, for Bruce Brown, salary filler, and 3 first-round picks. Me personally, I don't think that trade is going to happen. I think that's just a bunch of talk just to get his name out there. Pascal Siakam for Bruce Brown, like, as a Nets fan, I'm a big fan of Bruce Brown, but I don't think that's enough value you can get from Siakam, even with those 3 first-round picks, because they have the opportunity with Scotty Barnes to win now, and like they need that second option with Pascal Siakam, and I don't think trading him away would be the best pick right now. But then again, like, maybe if they do decide to lose a couple of games to progress more into the draft and get a higher draft pick, because of how top heavy the Eastern Conference is, maybe that's a good move. But as of right now, I don't necessarily think that that's like the best move, or that's what should happen. But we'll see, and we'll probably talk about it once they do pull the trigger. But once again, we are out of time. I am your host, Nelson Jimenez, and as always, take care.